While we're gearing up with some fantastic new episodes for Push to Be More podcast, I wanted to revisit one of our truly impactful conversations from the archive. In this episode, our guest Neil Morecraft talks to host Matt Edmundson about his deeply personal journey of self-improvement and of finding fulfillment in life. What's particularly relevant about this episode today is how it emphasizes the importance of mental and physical well-being, a topic that's increasingly significant in our fast-paced world. Neil shares candid insights about overcoming negative self-talk, the benefits of adopting healthier habits, and the profound impact of fostering genuine connections with loved ones. With so many of us juggling multiple roles and facing similar challenges, his experiences offer valuable lessons and inspiration. So whether you're navigating your own personal growth or looking for ways to enhance your overall well-being, this episode is a timely reminder of the power of self-reflection and of positive change. Let's listen in.
Welcome to Push to Be More with me, your host, Matt Edmundson. Now, this is a show that talks about the stuff that makes life work. And to help us do just that, today I am chatting with Neil Morecraft, a high-energy technology entrepreneur and performance marketeer who has been transforming businesses for over 25 years. He's the owner and operator of Digital Directive, a full-service digital agency and technical consultancy that serves high growth businesses worldwide. Now, he has experienced it all: raising, founding, exiting, dissolving, liquidating over 7 companies, dealing with personal struggles, and even declaring bankruptcy in 2015. But he has bounced back from it all and developed a methodical and straightforward approach to the whole work-life balance question that you can adopt. So Neil's a strategic thinker who brings a big picture perspective to every challenge, and he empowers people to reach their highest potential. In other words, he is going to be an awesome guest. No pressure, but Neil, welcome to the show, man. Great to have you. How you doing?
Hi, Matt. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it was a great introduction. Thank you for that. I sound great.
See if we can make it so we'll live up to the hype.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Well, it's great to have a fellow Brit on the podcast. Whereabouts in the world are you?
I'm in between Wimbledon and Kingston. So I'm in a place called Worcester Park, but I don't say Worcester Park because no one really knows where that is. But everyone knows where Kingston is and everyone knows where Wimbledon is. And I'm in the middle.
But does that mean you get cheap tickets to the tennis every year?
I'm sadly not. No, in fact, I think I've never been to Wimbledon. Funny enough, it is literally just around the corner, but never been. So not a big sports man, really. More golf, if anything.
Okay, well, yeah, there's not a golf course at Wimbledon. I know that much.
No.
So yeah, I mean, we're reading in your introduction there. You've done a few things so far in life, Neil. Yeah. And one of the things that we do on this show. And I'm changing the order of questions around slightly just to see what happens. But one of the questions I like to ask people, because the show is sponsored by Orion Media, right, which is this podcast agency, helps businesses have podcasts. We mentioned just a few seconds ago. If you had a podcast, right, and you could interview anybody on that podcast, past or present, and that's had a big impact on your life, whether a family member, someone you know, whether someone you don't know, a podcaster, an author, a TV personality, I don't know. Who would be top of your list to have as a guest?
Yeah, good question. I think immediately, as I said to you before, this guy, the author of this book here, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, has probably had the biggest impact on me. And, I discovered him, I don't know, 20 years ago maybe or something, and I've read that book many times, and I think that he's clearly had a really interesting journey, having interviewed some of the world greats. So I think I'd love to get him around the table. I don't know if I'd specifically want to ask him anything. I just want to chat with the guy, but
he's pick his brains.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so for sure. Yeah.
So what is it about Napoleon Hill then that or what is it about that book that's drawn you back time and time again? Because you don't read a book more than once unless something about it sort of captures you. And I'm curious to know what that is for you.
I think it really resonated with me when I first picked it up. I think, like a lot of people, you think it's about wealth, right? The title Think and Grow Rich, and you instantly think money, or I did. But of course, it doesn't really start with that. And as you go through it, I just think it's got some really good foundations for life. And, I found myself, I guess, enjoying degrees of success quite early on in life, and then getting asked the question, what do I want? And that was from a venture capitalist at a time when my second business was doing, in my eyes, pretty well. And I didn't know the answer to the question. And not only did it bug me, it really stuck with me, and it really changed the course of my life, because I realized that I didn't know what I wanted. I knew what I didn't want. And as I analysed that, I started to look around thinking, hang on a minute, this wasn't really the plan. And I realised I hadn't really thought too much about my life at that point. I'd just been going at it full, hammer and tongs. And as I picked that book up and I started reading about it, and it started to break it down into compartments for me, I started to realise that there were all these other elements to my life that were really important that I'd neglected. So I think it kind of just made me a better person. It certainly made me be more aware. And and I've listened to, I think, all of his old recordings. I think they're just today as they are, or they were back then. And as I say, it's been a foundation for me, and I've taken bits of that, and I've incorporated that into what I refer to as my Power of Six, which is this sort of strategy that has helped me create this life-work balance, as I call it. I put life first because I think that's more important than work. That was it, really. As I say, and every time I pick the book up and I read it, or I read any material that's related to it, I always get something new from it. I never stop learning from it, and that's one thing I've taken from that book, is that I never want to stop learning. I always want to keep growing.
It's a really interesting thing, isn't it, that you've got these, I call them the old school books. So you've got Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The other ones that sort of come to my mind, you've got probably anything written by Zig Ziglar, but the most famous one that springs to my mind is Reaching the Top. You've got How to Make Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, another really interesting, that was really impactful for me as well as a salesman. I think my manager gave that to me some 30 years ago. Yeah. And when I picked that book up, and I realized that again really made a difference with how I looked at things,
Yeah, I totally get it. I think there's these sort of old school books, and they're the kind of books I give to my kids and say, these are books you have to read. Because I think they're going to be helpful.
My son, since he was 18, and I don't think he's read it yet. Every year I buy him another edition, and I see it just used as a stop or an ornament somewhere, and you can take a horse to walk sort of thing, But one day, I'm sure, I hope he'll read it.
Sit down and read it. Yeah. No, really fascinating. And like you, I'd love to. I'd love. I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen, but I would love to have had the opportunity to sit down with Napoleon Hill and to chat with him, Dale Carnegie, Zig Ziglar, all these old school guys. I would just, what made them tick would be some great questions. So, listen, Neil, we read at the start. I mean, let's jump into this, because I read in the bio, was it 2015? You went bankrupt.
I did, yeah.
What was that like?
It was tough, but it was self-declaration. It wasn't that anybody took me bankrupt. In fact, years previous to that, I should have gone bankrupt. As I came out of what was my second business, we were part of the dot-com boom, and then all of a sudden we were part of the dot-com bust. And there was a stigma attached to it. I owed a lot of money. The company failed. I was in a good couple of $100,000 worth of personal debt. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't want to go bankrupt. I'd earned money. I'd always knew how to earn money. So I thought, well, I'll just earn the money, pay it back, and it'll all be good. But it wasn't. It took me years going through an IVA to pay back that money. My credit had suffered. Mentally, I was just in a bad place. I just couldn't seem to get out of the rut. And when I came to the end of that IVA, and I found myself, clear of the debt, but in a position where I just kind of felt like I was just getting straight back into the same paradigm that got me there in the first place. I realized that, something had to change. And it was actually at the time when I reached out to Bob Proctor. He became my first mentor, and I paid him some money to do what I thought was business coaching at the time. I think it was about the time that The Secret came out, the film The Secret. And I found this guy online. I thought, you know what, he knows what he's talking about. And I did my research. So I spent some money and invested with him. And he gave me a couple of exercises, which really got me thinking. And then I realized at that time I was back in a business that I didn't want to be in. I've been dragged in by some people in the industry that said, oh, look, come and get involved in this and do this. And I was really unhappy. And again, it was one of these things. I thought I knew what I didn't want. I didn't really know what I did want. And I thought something's got to change. And so I thought, well, if I start from zero, got nothing to lose kind of thing. So dare I say I planned it, I thought about it for a while. I got over the stigma of it because I realized that, well, if you try and fail, it's better to do that than never to try sort of thing. And in fact, I didn't even know a lot of money. I was just on the amount of money, which was 20 grand, believe it or not, where if I'd owed less than that, I couldn't have gone bankrupt anyway. I'd have had to pay it back. But I'd paid back. And I thought, yeah, you know what? There's something inside me that said I need a fresh start, and I kind of was prepared for it. But actually, when I stood in court and they said, where do you live? And at that point, I was kind of a no fixed abode. It really did hit home. But it was the day after I asked my fiance to marry me. I thought, well, at this point, if she says yes, that's got to be love, right? Because I've got absolutely nothing. And she did. And yeah, I kind of made some commitments to myself that not only was I never going to get in that position financially again, that I was going to really take control of understanding my wealth and not just being able to earn money, but also to retain it and to grow my wealth and really just become a lot more financially educated than I was previously. But also that I wasn't going to sacrifice the same things, because when I look back on my life there prior to that point, I would go, I'm too busy. I'm working, right? I'm working. I was up early, and I found myself doing it all the time. And I've got 6 kids, 5 of my own, one that we foster. And I remember thinking, I'm just always busy. I'm always working. And I thought, well, why am I doing this? And of course, what I wanted and what my ex-wife wanted at the time were kind of the same things, but we were on very different pages. I felt I needed to provide. I've got to do this. I've got to do this.
Yeah.
And I realized that this was all to the detriment of the other things that were actually just as important, if not more important, in my life. So I really took a step back and thought, right, hang on a minute. What are these things that are really important in my life? And let me create this balance, because never am I coming back in this court saying that's happened. That's not ever going to happen again. And also that it wasn't really that important, but when you really boil it down, as I did, and I came up with these 6 categories, which is mind, body, personal, lifestyle, business, money. These 6 categories, money's at the end for a reason, because when I thought about what was really important, my mindset was probably the most important thing, right? I needed to be of sound mind. I actually pictured myself, with a goal, which was £1 million. Right? I want to be a millionaire. But I just pictured myself in a room full of money. That's it. Nobody with me, and no windows, just a white room. And I very quickly realized that was a really silly goal to have. So as I started to unpick that, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, what do I really want? I realized that I really wanted to be of sound mind first. And then I wanted to be of sound mind and body. And then I wanted to have people around me to share whatever it was that I had, whatever experiences. Then I wanted maybe a slightly better room, so the lifestyle came into it. And then it was about professional contribution, giving back, and then money came last. So I thought, well, if I work consciously on all those other things first, if the money doesn't come, so what? That's I can still be happy and content with little, and I live by that now. And actually, that's exactly what happened. It's as I worked through that, I realised that a lot of the things that I wanted that really made me happy, like spending time with the kids, phoning my mum on her birthday, and just being present and taking care of myself, and being mindful. I tried meditating in the morning, I tried meditating in the evening. That didn't work for me, so I ended up just being mindful all the time. I just became a lot happier. I became a lot more content. As I say, I'd lost everything, so I thought, well, what I've got is mine, and you can't take that away from me. And a lot of it was so much to do with just the way that I perceived things and how I reacted to things, and it made me a lot calmer. I eradicated the word worry from my dictionary. I don't worry about anything.
Right.
I'm aware of these challenges as they come up, and of course things don't always go to plan, but I don't worry about them. I don't allow myself to worry about them, because that just creates a negative environment, which I don't want. And as a result of that, I just found myself being a lot calmer, and I remind myself that I'm too blessed to be stressed. Even though, of course, like everybody, especially when you're running a business or you're juggling what we do now in life and work, it's very easy to get sucked into that and feel stressed. This system that I created, if you like, reminds me that there's other things that are just as important, if not more so. And by departmentalizing it like that and categorizing it, it really allows me to focus on what I'm doing. I became a lot more efficient and productive. So when I was working, I was really structured at it. I was really focused at it. And I was working for 2 or 3 hour blocks at a time, 2 or 3 times a day. Sorry. So that would get my 8 to 9 hours a day in, but I'll be doing that a little bit in the morning, having a break, going to the gym, coming back, seeing the kids. And it felt a bit anal at first because, I created 6 calendars and 6 folders and 6 reminders and 6 goals and 6 everything. Everything had to fit in the box. But once I got used to it, it became a really easy way of just living. And as I say now, I don't really get too stressed about anything. I don't worry too much about anything. I've really had some challenges since. I mean, even as I was going through my bankruptcy and we built the house that I'm currently sitting in, which I was doing in my fiance's name because I couldn't get a mobile phone on contract, let alone a development finance. We had a lot of challenges, and we nearly lost it. But I think just having that approach, that slightly different mindset to it, just kind of got me through it. Sorry, I'm being nibbled by a tortoise. We've got a house tortoise. I just realised he's under my feet. So it worked for me, And as I say, anybody that I've spoken to since tends to have a bit of a takeaway from it. They like the way I say. Some people find it's a little bit too much. Now the dog is barking at the tortoise, by the way, or growling.
Got a real zoo going on there.
Yeah, well, that's what comes when you have all these kids, you see. So dogs and guinea pigs and fish, or fish didn't last very long. But the tortoise, I think, will outlive me. I think he'll live.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, listen, Neil. There's so many questions I have for you at the moment. And before we get into, I think you called it the power of 6. Your 6 categories. I want to talk about those because obviously they've had a big impact for you. Yeah. But I just want to circle back a little bit. Have you found it fostering a child? Because there's not many people. I mean, there's a great guy here in Liverpool, a guy called Phil Watson, who's a real fostering champion actually, and he fosters kids, and he in effect works for the city council helping people foster kids. Really great guy, really inspiring guy. So I'm curious, how have you found being a foster dad alongside? And I don't know when the child arrived in the was this pre-bankruptcy? Was this post-bankruptcy?
It's actually my nephew. So it's my fiance's sister's boy. She's got some mental health problems. She's bipolar, and her partner died. So that Leo's dad died when he was quite young. He's got ADHD and opposition defiance disorder and some other bits and bobs. He came to us when he was 10, 11, so a few years ago, just as we hit COVID, which was a real tricky one. So we'd just finished building the house. We'd just got stable. Turns out that he'd been taken away by social services and put up in a care home in Leeds. And no one else was stepping in. And, my partner and I sort of discussed it, and we said, look, well, his family, we're in a position, let's just take him on, It has been very, very difficult, mainly because he's not had the love and affection that my kids have had growing up. So he's been very defiant, and he's been quite violent, and we've had the police out lots of times, and it's been a real challenge. But we're getting there, Right now, actually, he's away on respite. He's we had an incident, shall we say, a few months ago where the police and the social services were here, and the problem we've got with him at the moment is he's not taking any medication, and when he gets to a certain age, as he is now, if he doesn't want to take the medication, you can't force it down him. Yeah, and rightly so. But because of that, he finds it hard to regulate his emotions, and as a result, he can get quite violent quite quickly, particularly if he doesn't get his own way. So, to be fair, it's probably been one of the toughest things I've ever done, and I'm not sure that I would foster again or anybody else, but I wouldn't rule it out. It's been quite rewarding, and I hope that someday, you know, we manage to make a difference. But it's not been easy because it's had a big impact on the other kids. I mean, 3 of mine are from my first marriage. One of them doesn't live with me, so my eldest daughter's now 29, but my eldest son, who's 24, my eldest daughter, who's 21, they live here, as do my other 2 boys, who are 10 and 6. And then seeing him being violent, which then is very hard not to get angry. I hate getting angry. Get angry that I get angry, and I'm really genuinely quite calm as a result. But when someone's constantly pushing your buttons, and then that's in your life, you don't want it there. It's been a real challenge. But equally, I saw it as an opportunity for me, you know, because I knew that, you know, fighting fire with fire wasn't going to work, and I had to understand what was going on with him a bit more mentally, in order to be able to communicate and really make a difference. So, you know, selfishly almost, I took him on thinking, well, this is going to do me good regardless, right? So if I can do some good with him as well. But it's been a real tricky one, but we're persevering. And as I say, as he's getting older now and he's starting to figure out what he wants, that becomes a bit easier. But he's been out of school pretty much since he's been here. I mean, he's been expelled for 3 or 4 schools that we put him in. He's not in school at the moment, and that of course then makes it even more difficult. So tricky.
Yeah, it sounds it, but I mean, you know, well done on doing that, because I think that's a really hard life choice, isn't it? But I think it's one of those things, and I know with Phil, the stories you hear, some of them, like yours, you know, you there are challenges on the way, but what it does for those kids is unbelievable, you know, and the fact that you step in is insanely brilliant.
Yeah, I think I kind of felt that it was going to be a little bit easier, because you think, well, you give him a room and a bit of Wi-Fi and the love and affection that he needs and all that, and it's all going to be great, but it's not, because there's a much deeper level of something going on there, you know, in as much as that for the first 6 months he would sleep on the floor. Sometimes he'd sleep in the bathroom. You know, we bought him a bed. He had his own bedroom. We gave up one of the rooms the kids, the 2 younger boys shared. But he would sleep on the floor. He'd be up all night, you know, a bit of a night. And we realized that there was just, something missing. As I say, that he hadn't had this love and affection early on, and you've got to rebuild that. And we were totally aware that, of course, once they get past a certain age, some of these neural pathways already formed, and you can't undo it. You've kind of got to build on top of it. So it became, a real challenge, but one that's worth it for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, that's awesome, man. It's an incredible thing, I think, fostering. And so the fact you guys are doing it in spite of it all, brilliant. Yeah. So let's hit this 6, the power 6. So just run through those again, Neil. What the ones you mentioned: mind, body, personal lifestyle,
business,
what have I missed?
Money.
Business, money.
Yeah. So mind, as I say, is at the top of the list, mainly because I picture myself in this room and I thought, well, if I'm not of sound mind, nothing else matters, right? If I've got Alzheimer's or something, if I'm not of sound mind, nothing else matters. And I say for a time, I thought about that as, you know, spiritual connection or oneness or whatever. And I think it is, but it came to be this, it's always present. It's not like there's a little segment of my day where I'm mindful. It's like I'm mindful all the time. It's just this one little category that reminds me to be open and honest and aware and conscientious and kind and all those sorts of things that you'd want to be as a human being, right? So that was that the sort of first thing, and actually fairly easy box to tick. The second box, as I say, which was the body, was really about personal health and fitness. And I definitely had been neglecting that. You know, I mean, I was overweight. In fact, I did have an obesity warning. I was about 16 and a bit stone, maybe 12 and a half stone now. You know, my cholesterol.
Sorry, Neil, just for the sake of our international listeners, you might want to explain what 16 stone actually means for anybody outside the British borders.
Kilos, I was about 98, maybe 98 kilos. And I'm now 80 kilos. So, you know, if we work, I don't do kilos, I'm a stone guy. But yeah, overweight, right? I mean, I was, 36-inch waist or 38-inch waist, big beer belly, just not really very healthy. And I kind of kidded myself that I was all right with it. But, there came a point when we'd gone out on holiday And you have that big shirt that you wear that's kind of the one that you wear when you're feeling a bit fat. Well, that didn't fit me anymore, and
Oh
I was
wow.
like,
Okay.
yeah. And the missus was like, you need to lose some weight. So I was like, yeah, okay, I do. But actually, when I took my health seriously and I started training regularly, I realized that I've just been making excuses all these years, right? So, I mean, I go to the gym 4 times a week now, possibly 5 if I can get it in. I don't train at the weekends, but I go for an hour a day. So, if you divide that hour a day into all the hours there are in a week, it's like a few % of the week. You know what I mean? Really not a lot of excuse. The only thing that was getting in the way is, I'm too busy. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Well, again, by prioritizing these things on the same level and saying this is just as important as a meeting or just as important as seeing the kids or whatever it might be, and you start to schedule it in, they're actually really easy to slot into your diary. So I tend to book those sessions in advance, and then I work my week around that. I'm an early riser, and I normally make myself available, as I did this morning. I was on a call at 7:00 this morning. I've got a client in Australia. So I'll make myself available early in the morning. I don't mind working up until sort of 7-8 o'clock at night, but I don't work the 12 hours in the middle. I'll work for bits in the middle, and then when the kids come home, I'll see the kids, etc. So the body bit was actually pretty easy once I committed to it, and even more so now because I'm getting married in a few months or remarried in a few months, and I'm going for my wedding bod. So I'm really conscious now of my calories and my macros and all sorts of
The
things.
wedding bod. I like that. I like that phrase. Going for the wedding bod.
Yeah, well, I don't intend doing it again, that's for sure. So I want to look good and feel good on the day, and it's more about feeling good. For a time, I was really conscious about my weight. I thought, I've got to get from 16 stone to 15 stone to 40, and I thought, what, I don't actually care how much I weigh. It's more about how I feel when I look in the mirror, because I was absolutely guilty of telling myself some bad things, probably things that I wouldn't even say to my best mate. Oh my God, that in front, and that self talk, it just isn't good. So that actually was relatively easy, in as much as I kind of stopped drinking most of the time. I still do have a drink, but I cut out most of the alcohol. No big deal. Eating healthy, going to the gym a few times a week. That just made such a difference in the amount of energy that I've got. I genuinely feel like I've got as much energy now as I did when I was in my 20s. And I remember my 20s are good times. I was going for it. It was all good. And for a long time through my 30s and 40s, that just gone. I don't know where it'd gone, but it's definitely back. And, I'm 53 in 3 weeks' time or something. And I genuinely feel like I'm, in my 20s. So the body box was relatively quite easy. The personal bit, again, relatively simple in terms of, well, what do I want out of love and relationships? Well, I want to love and I want to be loved. And that means maybe just being a little bit more connected to the people around me and just making the time to listen to these people, to talk to these people. My brother's in Thailand, my parents are in Spain. Just picking the phone up now and again and making a point now that when it's someone's birthday, I don't message them on Facebook. I pick the phone up and wish them happy birthday. And it's surprising that sometimes I'm like the only person that's wished them happy birthday to pick the phone up, right? But of course, that's easy. We just forget that, well, actually, it's just as easy to pick the phone up and have a conversation with somebody as it is to write birthday mate on Facebook, or worse, even like someone else's birthday wish on Facebook. So that personal box, so that equally became relatively easy. And the point that I'm making here is that as I started to think about what I wanted in life, right? So what are my goals within these categories? They were instantly achievable. There wasn't something I had to wait a year for or whatever. It was like instantly felt better because I was doing it straight away. And that then sort of has this compound effect where all of a sudden you just feel like the things are going in the right way. And I think, the law of attraction, the more you do, the more you get, and all that kind of stuff. So it really did make a difference. The lifestyle box was a tricky one because I'm very happy with my lifestyle, but I want a better lifestyle, right? I don't want a boat and a yacht, but I like things, right? And I've been guilty, I guess, in the past of probably spending money that I don't have. That's probably a true to say, maybe a weakness. But I like experience, right? So it's not about being ostentatious or flash. It's like, well, if I go out, I want to go out and not worry about the fact that it's cost me X amount of money. I don't want to think about the monetary side of it if I'm going on holiday or whatever. But it taught me to cut my cloth and be grateful for what I've got. Because as I say, at the point when I went bankrupt, I had absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely grateful for a warm shower and a roof over my head, even though it wasn't my roof and my shower, you know what I mean? So that really grounded me. And as I say, moving forward, I just became a lot more appreciative of the things that do surround you in life. So, but I do have aspirations to have a forever home. That's on my goal, on my list, you know. But that's something that I work towards, and it's not the be all and end all. I don't doubt, in fact, that it will come. Maybe I should be a little bit more definitive with the timeline. I'm probably not that bothered about it, truth be told. It's one of these things that it'd be nice actually, but the house we live in is perfectly adequate and fine, and I'm happy. So, you know, maybe there's a part of me that doesn't really want that, and that's absolutely a reason I wouldn't get it, by the way. When it came to business, which was, I say, coming down to the crux of it, that was really about professional contribution. I didn't want to do something that would make me unhappy. I certainly didn't want to work for money. So I stopped working for money altogether. And then I started to think, well, hang on a minute, what really satisfies me? What gives me fulfillment in what I do? And I've always done the same thing there or thereabouts, right? For the last 20 or 30 years, I've been in the same sort of business. But there has been times when I've been doing it for the wrong reasons. And ultimately, though, they've failed because that's not the right thing to do, right? If you go into it for the wrong reason, the universe is going to interfere at some point and say, no, that's not how it works. So I started becoming a lot more conscious of actually what really got me out of bed in the morning, what did enthuse me, and started to just realign my business with more of that. So I just felt good about it, you know. So I started, you know, stuff that I've been charging for, I started giving away, almost to a point where I was doing too much of it. I was giving too much away because I had this bad association with money. I definitely had a bad relationship that, because I'd experienced success and then lost it, I had this kind of notion that it was the root of all evil, you know, and there was a part of me that didn't want that again because I associated it with the failure that came with it. But I got over that. And I certainly don't have a bad relationship with it now. But from a business perspective, that actually made it really easy for me to come up with my value proposition, as it were, you know, helping people get started in business and then showing them how to use the tech to build a better business online. And then everything I did and everything I do fits into that box, or don't do it. And it made it really easy for me to turn down things because, say, previous to this, when I had an opportunity and said, oh, you know, come and get involved in this. Well, I knew I could do it, but I didn't really want to do it. There was a carrot of money or equity, whatever it might be. So I found myself getting lured into that. Whereas now, just having that different attitude towards it allows me to say, no, that doesn't fit with what I want and what I'm about. So therefore, the answer is no. I can help you in another way, maybe, but I'm not going to give my time to that because that's not in line with what I'm all about. So it actually made it really easy for me to differentiate, and I've definitely been going wrong over the years there. And then the money box, as I say, you know, I am a believer that ultimately these things do slot into place. And I definitely had some luck along the way in the money box, having gone bankrupt. One of which is I found £500,000 in a pension that I'd forgotten all about. And I had no idea. Yeah, and I'm being honest.
Well,
I mean, I remember sitting in my garden and I'd got onto one of these pension apps, Pension Bee it was, a few years ago. I'd come out of my bankruptcy. I'd been discharged, and I thought, well, I knew I had a pension years ago, and I knew I had another pension and another one, and I just thought, well, I'll just amalgamate them and see what I've got. And there was 20 grand here and 30 grand here. I thought, well, that's about right. And then all of a sudden, I got a mail saying, oh, because your value is more than, I was reading it, and it was like £538,000 in a pension that I'd forgot about. I'm like, well, I'll take that, luck. Thank you very much.
I love that.
Yeah, and when I think back, it was at a time when I was young and successful, I guess, in sales, working in corporate land. But I remember someone saying to me at the time, you're earning a fair bit of money. You should put some money into these voluntary contributions, right? Because putting it into your pension. I thought, okay, there were months I was earning 20 grand, 30 grand a month. This is 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything to do with it. So I was like, well, okay, yeah, if you tell me that's a good thing to do, I'll do it. Didn't really pay much attention to it because I didn't miss it, right? It was coming out of source. I forgot about it. Well, I did that for 7 years. And of course, that 7 years ultimately stacked up into this £500,000, which I totally forgot about, which I then found, which I was like, okay, I'll take that, because that absolutely helped me get to that net goal of me getting my net worth back again, albeit not in the way that I thought, right? And I started to realize at that point that I didn't really need to know how I was going to achieve what I wanted to achieve. It was more about why I wanted to achieve it. And I had to let go of that how, because for years I've been thinking, right, I'm going to do it like this. I'd write it down on a bit of paper, and of course that didn't happen. And then I get despondent, and then I'll try some more and I get more despondent. And I started to realize that, well, maybe that's not the way, right? Maybe that's not the way I meant to do it. So letting go of that how to do it was a big lesson for me. But as I let go of that, again, things just got easier, because it's like, well, I know what I want, I know why I want it, I know when I want it, and I'm just going to put faith over into the universe or the ether, or call it what you like, that ultimately things will pan out, and know why I want to do it, and have that real emotional attachment as to why do I want it, right? Safe in the knowledge that ultimately it will figure itself out. And so far, things absolutely have started to do that more and more and more. And I'm absolutely a believer in that. So, and to say part of that was really understanding that, earning money. I realized I never made money. There's plenty of money. There's an abundance of money. I never made any of it. I earned it. And ultimately, that I earned more by serving more people. So I switched selling into serving. So instead of trying to sell to someone, I would serve that person. And the more I served, the more I would earn, and then just became a lot more educated as to, right, now I've got a bit of money and I'm absolutely not going to lose it again. How do I protect that money? How do I set up these vehicles? And my pension was another good eye opener as to, well, that was actually pretty easy. I didn't need to the vehicle. I just needed to put the money into the pot and forget about it. And of course, there are lots of those investment vehicles out there, whether that's pensions or bonds or property or whatever it is, right? But you don't need to know about them. You just have to have that disposable income and say, well, I've got a bit of money there, I'm going to put it in that pot, right? And I'm starting to do more and more of that, and that's still a massive part of where I'm at, because when I look at it, I actually think it was probably easier for me to make the money that I'm making, enjoying what I'm doing, and then have that money make more money than it is for me to go and create a company and exit X amount of millions, because I actually don't want a company again, right? I mean, I've got a business. The only people I employ in my business are my kids. So 2 of my kids are in that business. I think the 3rd one's just about to come in. And outside of that, they're freelancers in the gig economy. And I don't have an office. I don't want an office. I don't want lots of people. I'm not a coder. I'm not going to create the next bit of, whiz bang software. So that fits in nicely with what I'm doing. And I'm content with that, and happy with that.
And it works well.
It's all good. Yeah.
That's really fascinating. And I'm listening to you, Neil, with avid interest, talking about, these 6 areas, this has obviously come out of your personal experience. These are obviously very real for you. This is not just something you read on a fridge magnet somewhere, right?
No, totally.
And it's obviously very, very personal. And obviously the dog's getting involved. And at the start you said, someone asked you the question, what do you want? And you didn't know how to answer that. You knew what you didn't want. It was easy. It's funny how that's easier to verbalize, isn't it? I know what I don't want, but I'm not quite sure what it is, what I do want. And then you said that, you want, later on you said that you wanted to love and to be loved. So it sounds like there's this sort of real journey then that you've gone on through the bankruptcy, through all these things happening, which have no, where is it? Hello.
So I do not disturb. It's just my fiance's on my VIP list as I was kids. She knows.
You know what? So, my wife's on mine as well. So if she rang, my phone would ring, even though it's in do not disturb. And that's a good sign, Neil. That's a very good sign that she's on that list. But it sounds like one hell of a journey, man. I think is what I was going to say there.
Yeah, it has, and you know what? I wouldn't change it. I mean, I feel like I've lived at least a couple of lives. You know what I mean? So I got married. I met my first wife when I was very young. She was 16, I was 17. We fell in love. We had a few kids. We lasted 15, 16 years, and I thought that was it. And then I got asked this question: what do I want? And I didn't know, but I realised that actually the things around me is not what I wanted, and it changed the entire course of my life. And as much as I realised I'd fallen out of love with my wife, and I owed it to her to tell her that, and I told her that, and it didn't go down very well, and we split up, and then I lost my business, and dare I say it on camera, she became an alcoholic and didn't last very long and died, several years later. And that was pretty tough, right? So I'm thinking, oh, that's not the plan at all, right? And I had a massive amount of guilt. But of course, that was her journey. This was my journey. Would I do it any different? Well, of course I wouldn't. I'd still want us to be on the planet, but I wouldn't change anything, because it was real and it was true, and that was it. So, but when I look back, I wasn't a very nice person in that marriage. There was a point where I was, cheating on my wife, and I was enjoying the success, and I was a young guy, and I just wasn't very nice. If I'd seen me today, I wouldn't have given me the time of day. But it was going through that, and I do believe that as people, we go through these phases. It's not necessarily an age thing; it's just a thing, right? We just mature, we go through it. So I don't judge anybody by that, but I remember thinking, I don't want this life. It was horrible. From the outside in, people say, oh, you're great, and you've got a company and driving a nice car and you've got a bit of money. No, it was horrible. It was horrible. So facing up to that, and then really digging deep, say, well, how can I become a better person for it? Was the bit. It was a journey that just had to go on, because the alternative was all of the stuff that I didn't want, right? So I've got this life that I don't want. Unless I make a change, I'm going to carry on with the same thing, right? And I didn't really. I kind of thought it'd be a lot easier. I thought in my head, well, I've got this, and this ticked. I'll do this, and I'll go over here, and it'll all be great. And it wasn't, and it took me years of like horrible slog and hard work, just going round in circles, trying to figure it out. But what I did figure out after about 4 or 5 years is that I would fail quicker and I'd get over it quicker. So, when my second or third business started and failed, it took me a year or something to, oh my God, boo-hoo, poor me, all this work, all this effort. And then I got over it, and then the next one, and then, failure again, and then and now, Bo, sorry, listeners, now, and then it got to a point where I just recognized that was just temporary setback, and it wasn't a bad thing. I just needed to learn from it. Sorry, he's barking at the tortoise, because the tortoise is under there in my feet. So as I say, it taught me a lot, and so I didn't change any of that. But it did take a while. It took a lot longer than I thought. And real soul searching. I mean, there were times when I was sat in my basement just crying, basically thinking, oh God, how has my life come to this, right? So not that long ago, I had all of this and it was great, and this one little thing wasn't quite right, but because I wanted it all, I felt I deserved it. And I think we do all deserve whatever we want, and I do think you can have it all. I know there's some people say you can't, but I do think we can have it all, as long as you know what that is. And that's basically what it boils down to. And that's a really tough question. And this is what I've been saying to my kids for years, and I'll keep saying to them, figure that out, figure out what you really want to do, and then everything else will slot into place. Because if you don't, no one's going to come along and figure it out for you. And it doesn't get easier with age, right? So you're 20 now.
That's very true.
When you're 25, if you still don't know the answer, it's going to get harder, because we create these paradigms that then subconsciously say, well, I can't leave my job because I've got to pay my rent. Or I can't do that. You can, and I've done that many a time. Gone, no, that's it. It's not what I want. I don't care what the consequences are. I've got to be brave enough to have the courage of my conviction and go through with it, even though everyone around me is going, "What are you doing, Neil? Hello, no, don't do that. Go and get a job." I can't do it. It's not in me. I've got to be true to myself, right? If I've got to. Got to at least be honest with that. So that was the toughest part, but that's been the most rewarding part of it. So as I've come out of that, and I am now, I feel really lucky and blessed, genuinely, to have the lifestyle that I've got, and the kids and the family, and be able to sort of pick my own hours and work with the people that I want to work with, and feel really fulfilled in what I do, and not really ever thinking about retiring. It's not like I think, well, I can draw my pension in a couple of years, right? But I don't want to. I want to carry on giving back, and that's exciting for me. So, it's been a worthwhile journey.
It sounds like it, man. It sounds like an epic. And it's interesting how you use phrases like you had to be honest with yourself, And I find in life that there is a journey. There are ups and there are downs. And the people that are brutally honest with themselves tend to be the ones that come out stronger and better. And it I don't know. It's just one of those. I'm not a psychologist now. I don't claim to be, but
I would agree. I think fear holds a lot of people back. You know, when I talk to people about, because I do work with different people in different stages, right? I like to help anybody that wants to help himself, right? So if they're a business owner, they're already doing one and they want to do better, and I can show them how to do that through technology, which is pretty much what I do as a consultant, then of course I want to help them. But I get a lot of people say, well, I'm kind of thinking about starting my own thing. And I say, well, why? And they go, well, I hate my job. I'm like, well, there's a reason right there, right? So if you hate your job, right, that should be enough. And they go, well, yeah. But I can't do this because of that. And I'm like, well, you can, but you've got to have the courage to do it. And they say, well, no, I can't, right? Because if I leave my job, I can't pay my rent. Well, I know, I've been there. You can pay your rent, you'll pay it in another way. And unless you open the door to that new opportunity, then maybe that new opportunity is never going to present itself. So the choices are yours. You either say, well, I'm too scared and I'm going to stick with the lifestyle that I've got, even though I hate it, or I'm going to be bold enough and brave enough to do it. And of course, some people do it and then they fail quickly and then they go, oh, you know what, isn't for me. And that's fine. If you're comfortable with whatever lifestyle you've created, and that's you, that's totally fine. I'm not suggesting that being an entrepreneur or being entrepreneurial is for everybody. It's not. Some people like the I say the comfort factor. It really isn't a comfort factor. But they like that sense of security, right? And it's the world we live in. So if that's right for you, great. But if you've got something in you that says, you know what, I just want to be more, I want to do more, then absolutely go and do it. That's as simple as that. Planning, stop to get on with it, you know.
And the responsibility is on you to do that, like you say, not on the white knight. Listen, Neil, let's. I'm aware of time is rapidly creeping up on us, so I do want to do the question box, which is, you know, my state-of-the-art graphics here, the question box. So, you're going to say stop as I flip through these questions, and we're just going to pick out a random question. I'm curious. Right there. Okay. Okay. Have you and your partner or friends ever argued about taste?
Taste. A taste as in like taste of, like tasting things, or taste as in food taste? Tasting things, I'm guessing.
I'm assuming tasting things, Neil. Like it's not the best question, but it's an interesting question.
No, I don't think we've argued about it. I mean, we have different tastes for sure. But I'm quite open to different things, in as much as I like lots of different genre of music. Right? I don't hate any particular music just because it's not the type of music that someone else likes. And I accept that, of course, we live in a world where lots of people have opinions, and what makes us different is the fact that we are all different, right? So no, I don't think we've argued about it. We talk about it a lot, and I like to get my little influence in, but she absolutely gets her influence in, and I think the balance is harmony.
But don't you find that's the harmony? That's a great word. That's the beauty of relationships, isn't it? Because my wife and I have very different taste on a whole raft of things. But the beauty for me in marriage, we've been married 25 years this year, and part of the beauty in that is actually coming together and finding out what works for both, right? And sometimes that's a quick thing. Sometimes it takes a few years. But you know, I like you. I don't know if we've ever argued about taste. I think that there are things that I've definitely not done, or we've not done, because we've not found agreement in taste, is probably a good way to put it.
And I think that's probably right, because I think, you know, it is a partnership, right? You are in it together, and if we both like the same things, I guess it'd be pretty boring anyway. But like you say, I think, you know, thrashing that, because sometimes she will absolutely convince me, I guess, maybe, that I like something. Well, I thought, no, I don't. You know, even as I look at the kitchen, this is not the kitchen that I would choose, but I love it. And she was absolutely adamant this is the kitchen we were going to have, so there was never going to be another kitchen.
Fair play. I felt like I couldn't get involved in that one, but
good example, I guess.
No, excellent. Listen, Neil, the conversation has been awesome, man. I've got lots of notes. I loved your 6 categories there, and lots to take away, lots to think about. And if people want to reach out to you, if people want to connect with you, what is the best way to do that, sir?
So, I mean, thankfully, I'm the only Neil Morecraft in the world that I know of. So if you Google Neil Morecraft, you're going to find the first page of me. There are, but you have to spell my name right. So I'm Morecraft. If you Google me, you'll find me. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so that's the easiest thing to do. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Of course, you can go to neilmorecraft.com, and there are a number of different ways there that you can engage with me, whether that's someone starting in business, whether growing business, etc. I've got different ways of dealing with different people. But either direct to my website. There's a little quiz there you can take, which will tell you whether or not I'm a good fit for whatever it is you're doing. And if not, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Listen, Neil, it's been an absolute treat, man. Really appreciate you coming onto the show. Thank you so much for all that you've sort of shared. It's been brilliant. And of course, we will link to Neil's info in the show notes as well. So if you're signed up to the newsletter or if you're on the website, you will find all of those links in today's show notes. So a big thanks again to Neil. What a great conversation. I really enjoyed that. I genuinely did. Got lots of notes. Well, now be sure to follow the Push to Be More podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, because we've got yet more great conversations lined up just like today's, and I don't want you to miss any of them. And in case no one has told you yet today, you are awesome. Yes, you are. Created awesome. It's just a burden you have to bear. Neil has to bear it. I have to bear it. You've got to bear it as well. Now, that's it from me. That's it from Neil. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.